Hey everyone, and welcome to this Explainer. Today, we're going to objectively unpack a fascinating and honestly, deeply relatable morning devotional from Pastor Hu Ziqiang. We're diving into the true nature of moral compromise. It's one of those topics that affects absolutely every single one of us, and the source material tackles it in a surprisingly practical way. As you'll see, it really highlights how easily tiny, seemingly harmless actions can just snowball into massive moral dilemmas.
So, let's jump right in with the surprisingly tough question the pastor uses to hook his audience. Would you steal a $10 bottle of hotel lotion? Now, take a second. Be totally honest with yourself. He doesn't bring this up as some abstract hypothetical scenario. No, he actually introduces this through remarkably candid personal confession, which kind of immediately disarms you and really forces you to reflect on your own behavior.
Here's exactly what happened. Pastor Hu candidly admits that during a recent hotel stay, he actually brought a small container with him. Why? Well, to secretly pump some lotion from one of those large, non-complimentary bottles bolted to the bathroom wall. We're talking about a generic item worth maybe $10, probably less. And to be clear, this wasn't one of those tiny, free travel bottles you're totally meant to take. It was the bulk dispenser. He had a need, he had an empty container, and so he just quietly took some. It seems incredibly minor, right? I mean, it's just a fraction of a cheap bottle of lotion.
But this brilliantly illustrates his main point, which is perfectly captured in his confession. He said, "Every time I look at this lotion, it reminds me of my own greed." Wow. Even though he completely avoided what society might label as a major sin, taking this tiny, insignificant item left him with this nagging, persistent accusation of his own greed every single time he used it. The physical lotion literally became a daily reminder of a spiritual compromise.
The devotional highlights a really stark contrast to show exactly why this matters so much. Think about two very different extremes. On one hand, you have small temptations, like swiping a $5 or $10 non-complimentary item from a hotel. On the other hand, you have massive moral failures, things like affairs, accepting bribery, or huge, large-scale corporate greed. The source explains a pretty profound truth here. Whether it's a massive, life-destroying moral failure or just a tiny $5 theft, the greed stems from the exact same root. It is the exact same mechanism operating in the human heart, just playing out at a completely different scale. Section 1. Defining biblical temptation, moving from the micro to the macro. Pastor Hu grounds his analysis in a devotional by John MacArthur, which focuses heavily on Matthew chapter 6, verse 13. You probably recognize it. It's where Jesus says, "And lead us not into temptation." It's a famously recognized line from the Lord's Prayer, right? Jesus provides it as a clear, daily model for how believers should pray to actively protect themselves from the really subtle traps of everyday life.
Now, what's super interesting here is the dual meaning of the word itself. As defined, temptation can actually mean two totally distinct things. First, it can mean a trial or a test that can actively promote internal spiritual growth, which lines up with James 1:2. Or second, it can mean an enticement to commit sin or walk right into a dangerous predicament. The source text clarifies that while the word itself is technically neutral, and yes, trials certainly can promote growth, in the specific context of this prayer, it is a desperate plea to avoid the terrible danger and trap of sin altogether.
The text also firmly establishes a crucial theological boundary here. God does not tempt believers to do evil. So since God isn't out there setting traps to make people fail, the responsibility falls completely on individual choices. Basically, this means individuals shouldn't willfully just walk into highly familiar environments or situations where they already know they're likely to fail. It really calls for the self-awareness to actively avoid the specific times and spaces where personal temptations so easily take root.
Section 2. Jesus in Gethsemane, the ultimate model of endurance.
The source presents Jesus' prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane as the absolute perfect model for this kind of endurance. The quote reads, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Jesus was facing the unbearable, literally unimaginable weight of the entire world's sins. It was a trial completely beyond human comprehension, yet he submitted entirely to God's will to save humanity. It's a brilliant example showing that enduring a test doesn't mean you don't feel the crushing weight of it. It means deliberately choosing the right path despite that immense, overwhelming pressure.
Section 3. The leaking dam metaphor. How small leaks create catastrophes.
Okay, let's bring it back down to our everyday level. Just look at how incredibly easily people rationalize sin. Have you ever told yourself something like, "Well, I already paid thousands for this hotel room, they really won't mind"? It happens literally all the time. People confidently rationalize small compromises, convincingly telling themselves that taking something minor is perfectly justified because, hey, they've already paid for the larger experience. It's just us using clever internal logic to excuse behavior that is, fundamentally, wrong.
And here is where we hit the crucial point, this terrifying progression. Think of human morality exactly like a massive reservoir, held back by a huge dam. It always starts with a tiny, totally ignored hole, like taking that $5 or $10 lotion. Then rationalization sets in. Because the $5 was justified in your head, the hole widens to $500. Then it escalates to $5,000. Eventually, the dam completely collapses at $50,000 because the corrupt behavior has simply become expected. Like a massive reservoir with a tiny leak, ignoring a small compromise today normalizes a catastrophic collapse tomorrow.
Section 4. 2 steps to true repentance. Patching the hole in the dam.
So how do we fix it? Well, true repentance isn't just sitting around feeling bad about what you did. According to the text, it actually requires 2 distinct action verbs. Step 1 is confession. This means honestly and specifically admitting the wrong to God. Not just giving a general, "I'm sorry," but specifically naming the greed. Step 2 is correction. This means taking physical, tangible action to remove the trigger entirely. In Pastor Hugh's case, the correction was incredibly practical. He simply decided to go buy a large bottle of lotion for himself. That way, there's never a temptation by the idea of getting free things from the hotel ever again.
This 2-step process directly mirrors Jesus' final instruction to the adulterous woman, "Go and sin no more." This emphasizes that true repentance means actively stopping the behavior. You're asking for forgiveness, yes, but then you're immediately pairing that forgiveness with a firm commitment and physical steps to ensure the cycle of compromise ends right then and there.
Before we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative thought based on the pastor's candid confession. What small, seemingly harmless leaks in your own life are you currently rationalizing? What tiny, $5 compromises are you ignoring right now that could ultimately lead to a flood down the line? Take a moment today to honestly reflect on that and consider how you might patch that hole before the dam breaks. Thank you so much for exploring this topic with me. I really hope this structured look at temptation empowers you to make clearer choices moving forward. Keep learning, and I'll see you on the next explainer.